One of my favorite things about Sonic games is the story. While some of the game's stories don't offer much, the rest of them play a huge role in creating a memorable experience for the player. So today, I'm going to rank each story from every single Sonic game on a tier list. Without wasting any time, let's get into the video. So, as always, I've got just a few things to tell you about how I'll rank these games before we start. The first thing is, gameplay will not affect my ranking in any way. The second thing is, the way characters are written and some of their dialogue will affect the ranking of these games. And third, the number of characters that are in the story will affect the ranking as well. With that said, let's go rank some stories. So the first story I'm ranking is obviously Sonic 1's. It doesn't have much of a story. Eggman kidnaps the animals of South Island, and Sonic doesn't really like that, so he heads through Green Hill, Marble Zone, Spring Yard, Labyrinth, Starlight, and Scrap Brain to stop the evil doctor. He eventually succeeds, thwarting Robotnik's plan and saving the day. Like I said, it's nothing crazy, but it's not bad at all either. I'd say it does its job pretty well, especially considering it's the first game in the series, and paved the road for future stories later on. I'm giving Sonic 1's story a B tier. Next up is Sonic 1 for the Game Gear. It has a very similar story to the Genesis version, with some tweaks to the levels a bit, so it gets another B tier for me. Next up is Sonic 2 for the Genesis. This game introduced a new character to the series, Miles Tails Prower, or just Tails for short. The plot of this game is basically the same as the first, stop Robotnik and save the day, although this game had something pretty special about it. You see, Tails spends most of the game following Sonic, so he doesn't really get any chance to shine. But at the very end of the game, when Sonic escapes the Death Egg and free falls down to Earth, Tails flies up to Sonic and saves him from falling. Now, don't even bring up the fact that this ending isn't canon because it's the one where you don't get the Chaos Emeralds. Shut up, it's a much better ending, and it's canon to me. Anyways, this ending is great because it shows that Tails is there for Sonic when he needs help, and proves his loyalty to the Blue Hedgehog, which was great for his first debut. Sonic 2's story gets another B tier. Unlike the first Game Gear game, Sonic 2 on the Game Gear has a story that is completely different from the Genesis version. In this story, Tails gets kidnapped by Eggman, and it's up to Sonic to save him. Depending on if you get the Chaos Emeralds, you'll either rescue Tails at the end of the game, and you'll both end by looking off into the horizon. Or if you don't get the Chaos Emeralds, it kinda gets dark as the game pretty much implies that Tails dies, then the game ends. So yeah, better get all those Chaos Emeralds. Anyways, besides that, Sonic 2 Game Gear story gets another B tier. Not that good, but also not that bad either. Sonic Chaos, Knuckles Chaotix, and Sonic Triple Trouble are all B tier. I don't know much about them, so I don't really want to rank them too unfairly. Same with the Tails games and pretty much any Game Gear game. I don't really know much about them. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is considered to be the best classic game by many people, and I can't argue. The game is just so good, and the story especially shows that. After the fall of the Death Egg, Eggman seeks the help of Knuckles the Echidna, the guardian of the Master Emerald, a very powerful gem. Most of the game sees Sonic and Tails venturing through Angel Island, which is Knuckles' home. Eventually, Eggman steals the Master Emerald, and Knuckles sees that Sonic was only trying to help him the whole time, so he decides to work with him. So Sonic then gets the Master Emerald back and returns it to Angel Island for good. Without a single bit of dialogue, this story still does a great job at storytelling, so I believe Sonic 3 and Knuckles belongs at the top of the A tier. Next, we're moving on to Sonic CD, and I gotta say, I really like the story in this game. Just the plot of Sonic needing to travel through time to fix Little Planet's future, as well as rescue Amy, is enough to keep me engaged. I think my favorite part of this game is the Metal Sonic race. First time playing it, it is extremely hard, and I just love the contrast between Sonic and his robotic copy. Each fight with Robotnik also feels like it has so much more weight to it. But regardless, Sonic CD's story definitely deserves A tier. It's pretty good. Sonic 3D Blast, the game where Sonic has to save birds known as Flickies and also stop Robotnik. The Flickies are said to be clues to getting the Chaos Emeralds, so Robotnik plans to kidnap them to get the emeralds himself. I think
the story sounds pretty cool. Once again, this is a game I have never played before. Hopefully I can someday, but for now, I'll give it an A tier. It sounds pretty good.
Next is the subscribe button, and I gotta give it the SS tier. It gives us such an emotional story with over 90% of the people in its existence simply ignoring it and passing it by as if it never existed. It reminds you that sometimes in life, you need reminders. Like smashing that like and subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it.
Sonic Adventure, the first big 3D game on this list, and it's also the first game on this list to put a ton more effort into its story. The reason I love it so much isn't just because of the plot itself, even though that is a big part, but the biggest reason I love Sonic Adventure's story is because of the 6 different characters. Sonic's story, which is the main highlight, in short, has Sonic trying to get all the Chaos Emeralds before Eggman can give them to a water creature called Chaos to destroy the city of Station Square. It's a solid plot. Tails' story sees him moving on from always depending on Sonic and steps up when danger strikes. Tails proves that he's a brave hero who can do a lot if he just believes in himself. Knuckles' story has the Echidna witness the Master Emerald being broken in front of him, which he then spends his time trying to fix, while also uncovering some mysteries about his ancestors. Amy's story is basically a survivor horror game, but she has a pretty cool character arc as well. Big story in short is Big Cat chillin', Big Cat friend go away, Big Cat sad, so Big Cat get friend back, Big Cat fly on small plane, and Big Cat chillin' again. Gamma's story is a sad one, as all Gamma cares about is freeing his fellow mechs from their enslavement, and as he gets to the last mech, he sacrifices himself to save the animal inside of it. It's really the music that always makes me tear up in this scene. Once you beat all the stories, you'll unlock the final story, which has Super Sonic facing off against Perfect Chaos. Once it's defeated, all's well that ends well, right? Sonic Adventure's story is one of my favorites, and it definitely deserves the top of S tier. So, I never actually played Sonic Shuffle, but I do know someone who recently has. So today, I would like to welcome a very special guest to talk about Sonic Shuffle's story. Please welcome KKOGAMES.
Sonic Shuffle, a game released back in the early 2000s for the Dreamcast. Now in this game, it's actually a party type of game for Sonic, and of course you do play with him and his friends consisting of Sonic of course, Amy, Knuckles, and Tails. The story of Sonic Shuffle is a little bit confusing, but let me explain it to you really quick. So basically, there's this place called the Imaginary World, and this world is actually a dream world, to which there is a fairy called Lumina who is actually reaching out to Sonic and his friends to come and help them save this specific world. Now the reason why Lumina is actually looking for Sonic is because they actually wanted a hero to come help them and save the precious stones, which have been destroyed by the evil villain known as Void. So that is why Sonic and his friends have to go retrieve all of the fallen, shattered, precious stones around different areas and different maps. So then that's when you guys come into play. You guys being the player, you guys actually have to play the game, retrieve the precious stones. Hey yo, am I seeing you guys cheesing over there? Hey yo, I know I made you feel special for like 1 second. Hey man. Alright, let me stop. Let's go back to the story. Remember how I said in the beginning that this place was a dream world? Yeah, so basically there's gonna be a lot of dreaming in this specific area. So basically Sonic and his friends have many multiple dreams and they meet Void and other people. Now when it comes to Void, obviously Sonic and his friends fight him, it's a whole heated battle, and then boom, when he loses, he turns into a dark gem, to which obviously he falls down and Sonic picks up the gem, and Lumina, being the sad person that she is, no offense, asks him why he did everything that he did to destroy the entire world, but of course Void doesn't answer the question directly and asks her why she hates him. Because in this game, Void actually represents anger, sadness, despair, and emptiness compared to Lumina, who's actually this bright person and, you know, happy, all that stuff. After a little bit of talking, Sonic and his friends obviously speak with Lumina and convince her that Void is actually a necessity for the dreams to exist. Lumina then understands what she has to do, and of course they fuse pretty much and they become Illumina, which is pretty much the whole goddess of this little dream world or whatever they got going on down there. Don't ask me what's going on because I have no idea. But hey, listen, Illumina then explains to Sonic and his friends that she originally became Lumina and Void when she of course lost sight of her own dreams. The game does end later on with Sonic and his friends doing the whole classic thing where we're gonna continue a new adventure, so yeah. Now if you had to ask me where I would rank this game, I would probably give it a solid B if we're completely honest, because it was unique and it did take many different approaches to regular Sonic games. By the way, bro, what happened to my boy Sonic? What is that?
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on it, KKO. I really appreciate it. Now we're moving on to the next game in the series, Sonic Adventure 2. While the first game had a much more grounded story, Adventure 2 took a much broader approach and gave us some of the highest highs in the series. And personally, it has my favorite story in the series. It just has so much action, it's everything I could want from a Sonic game. The portrayals of the characters are all perfect in my opinion, except for Amy, she was kind of just there. But Sonic was so cool, Knuckles was also just a cool, chill guy, which I love, and Tails was also a hero. I loved his character arc from Adventure 1 to now taking on Eggman is just awesome. Speaking of which, this is probably my favorite portrayal of Eggman to date. He's not a joke, and he is a menacing foe that has many tricks up his sleeve. And Shadow's character arc being so well done. I'll admit the story isn't perfect, it has a few plot holes, but the heights it goes, combined with the characters and everything that happens in general, it's just the best in my opinion. And I'd say it deserves the SS tier. Sonic Advance for the GBA doesn't really have a story, so I'm not going to rank it. Advance 2, however, does, and it has some cutscenes, introduces a character known as Cream the Rabbit, and has an ending cutscene. Even with this, however, it's still a pretty basic one, but is iconic since it's Cream's very first debut. It definitely deserves the top of B tier. Sonic Heroes is up next. Heroes takes a bit of a backseat in terms of its story compared to the adventure games. In Heroes, the story is broken up into 4 different stories, one for each team. They all have the same general idea: get Eggman. Now, granted, all the different teams have a reason for wanting Eggman. Team Sonic wants to stop him from taking over the world. Team Dark each having their own reasons for needing Eggman. Team Rose wanting to find Eggman so that they can find Sonic, who Cream and Big think stole their friends. And Team Chaotix need to pay rent. I love these guys. In the final story, the teams find out who they thought was Eggman was actually Metal Sonic, so they band together and stop him using the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Hero's story is a bit bland, but it also has a bit of charm to it.
Which is why I'm giving it an A tier.
Sonic Battle is a game not familiar to a ton of people, but in my opinion, it has one of the best stories in the series. Now, even for the people that have played this game, you probably think I'm insane for this take, but I just love the way it's structured. The game follows Sonic and friends as they find a robot named Emerald that washes up on the beach shore. It turns out to be a weapon created by Professor Gerald, created for war. But Emerald has a heart, similar to Shadow. You see Emerald go from a robot who can't even speak, to being arguably the strongest character in that game. At the end, Sonic is forced to destroy him, which is probably the saddest moment for me in all the Sonic games, to be honest. It might be a hot take, but I'm giving this game's story an SS tier. Sonic Advance 3 takes a touch of battle story, with Eggman using parts of Emerald to build a new robot named Gemerald. I know, very original name. Eggman plans to create the city of his dreams, Eggman Land, but Sonic denies him of that. Emerald uses the 7 Chaos Emeralds to take on a giant orb-shaped form, but Sonic also uses the emeralds to turn into Super Sonic and destroys Emerald with the help of Eggman. I love the way that the game ends, as Cream and Vanilla find Gemerald's broken body on the beach, so they take it to Tails, who fixes and reprograms it. It's also a nice ending to Sonic Battle as well, as losing Emerald was very hard for Cream, so now she has a new friend she can play with, which is just heartwarming. Advance 3's story I'd say deserves the A tier. I think it's a worthy final send-off to the adventure era of games. The first game to use the 4Kids voice cast, and the next game on our list is none other than Shadow the Hedgehog, or Shadow 05 as many people, including myself, like to refer to it as.
It's kind of hard to rank Shadow 05's story, as it's easily the most unique story on this list.
Mostly because it's you, the player, that makes the decisions that affect what Shadow does and the story itself, which I actually think is really cool. But once you unlock the final story, however, it's unclear which route you take is actually canon. For the writing itself, I like most aspects of it. I think it has its moments, so I guess I'll give this game's story an A tier. Sonic Rush has a really good story in my opinion as well. It introduced Blaze the Cat, who I actually think is one of the best Sonic characters, to be honest. Blaze gets transported from her dimension because Eggman steals 7 new emeralds called the Soul Emeralds. Blaze sets out to get these emeralds back, but on the way she meets Cream and becomes great friends with her. Sonic and Tails eventually meet Blaze as well, and together they save the world from Eggman's descendant. Sonic Rush has a very solid story. It's nothing super crazy, but at the same time it keeps me engaged each time I play it. I've got to give it the S tier. Sonic Riders is widely considered one of the best Sonic racing games in the series, and I would agree, I think it's awesome. The story though, I guess it's pretty good. The game follows Sonic and the gang as they attempt to win a racing tournament, and on the way they meet a group of 3 competitors known as the Babylon Rogues. These guys consist of Storm the Albatross, Wave the Swallow, and Jet the Hawk. I haven't fully beaten Sonic Riders yet, so I don't have many thoughts on the story further than just that. If you've beaten it, let me know what you guys think of it down in the comments. But from what I've played though, I'll give it a high B tier. Sonic 06, a story that people either love or people either hate. Me personally, I love it. It may be a little confusing at times, but that doesn't matter to me. It's such a blast to follow each time. Sonic's story being about saving the Princess of Soliana, Elise, from Dr. Eggman to prevent him from taking over the world. Shadow's story being about hunting down a creature known as Mephiles and sealing him away. And Silver's story being about destroying a giant fire monster known as Iblis. In the last story, when you beat all 3 of the stories, Sonic, Shadow, and Silver will transform into their super forms to stop a super dimensional being known as Solaris, which is Mephiles and Iblis combined. In the end, Sonic and Elise blow out Solaris' flame, which makes the events of the story reset without Iblis or Mephiles ever having existed. 06 has one of my favorite Sonic stories, and I think it belongs in the SS tier. Sonic Rivals, a game a lot of people forget about quite often, and I think it has a great story. Eggman's descendant makes a camera that can turn anything it captures into a card, so he captures Eggman into a card to prevent his future failures. He also disguises himself as Eggman. Along the way, he also turns Amy, Tails, the Master Emerald, and Rouge into cards, which forces Sonic, Knuckles, Shadow, and Silver to stop this fake Eggman. I really like this story, especially since it's technically the first time Silver makes his debut since the events of 06 got erased. The characters are great, the plot itself is pretty cool. I'll give this game's story an A tier. Sonic and the Secret Rings is up next, and I really love this game's story. I love the overall vibe of this game, with Sonic traveling to the world of the Arabian Nights to stop the Eraser Djinn from erasing the world. I also really love the fact that Sonic is willing to put himself in danger to save Shara, even though he barely even knows her. The story itself I think is really good, but what really makes me love it is just how much aura Sonic has in this game. It's definitely top 5 for me, so I gotta give it the SS tier. Next up is Sonic Rush Adventure, and I love this game's story. I know I've said that a lot, but I really do love all these games' story. This era was just peak. It starts with Sonic and Tails being caught in a storm when suddenly they get caught in a tornado. They awaken on an island in Blaze's homeworld and meet her later again in the game. They also meet a raccoon named Marine who longs to be a sailor. The game takes place in Blaze's dimension where Sonic and Tails explore this huge world, find new islands, and stop the next scheme that is at hand. The plot itself is pretty good, but I think it's the world building that really makes me like this story. The world is very immersive, and I love that. It was great to see Blaze and the debut character Marine. I hope they both can have more time in the games. Anyway, I'll give Sonic Rush Adventure Story an A tier. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity is the next game on this list. I played this game recently, and I was very invested in the story. Both Team Sonic and the Babylon Rogues find a special relic called the Ark of the Cosmos. It allows them to control gravity, so the story in short is basically the teams find out the past of the Babylonians and what these Ark of the Cosmos really are. I think the story is really good. It goes a lot deeper than the first Riders story did, plus the amount of characters and their characterizations are awesome, which is why I'm giving Sonic Riders Zero Gravity the S tier. Sonic Unleashed is up next. Unleashed story is just awesome. It has a simple yet really cool plot, and in execution, I think it nailed everything it wanted to do really well.
The game follows Sonic and his new friend Chip as they explore the world, seeking to restore the broken planet that Eggman destroyed, and in destroying, releasing a creature known as Dark Gaia. So at the end of the game, Sonic goes and stops this creature, thus saving the world once again.
The world building is probably the best out of any Sonic game, as in each country you visit, there's a gorgeous hub world where you can talk to civilians and also just chill if you want. Sonic is written very well, and his friendship with Chip is really nice. Overall, the plot isn't crazy, but I think it's super well done, so I'm gonna give Sonic Unleashed story the S tier. Sonic and the Black Knight is arguably the best written Sonic game there is. I mean, it's in the storybook series for a reason. The highlight of the story, however, is Sonic. Well, duh, but Sonic is so well written in this game. Jason Griffith's performance as Sonic also really improved from the games prior, which made all of Sonic's lines a lot more impactful. Just watch these few scenes, for instance.
Yeah, maybe, but I play by my own rules. Remember that. It was never about chivalry for me. I just gotta do what I've gotta do. That's all.
The plot is also cool, the world building's great. I actually really like Sonic and Caliburn's dynamic. You can also see Caliburn going from doubting Sonic's skills to at the end of the game acknowledging that Sonic is a worthy knight. It's just really cool. And like I said, the writing is peak. This game definitely deserves the SS tier in my opinion. Sonic Colors. Oh, why? Because the previous games after Sonic 06 didn't receive well on release and were criticized for quote-unquote taking themselves too seriously, Sonic Team decided to take a completely different approach with their writing and instead made the stories tailored more toward kids. And I am not a fan of it. I don't think it's that bad in and of itself, but compared to the writing we've had previously, even the last game, it's just such a downgrade. The plot itself of the game is actually kind of cool. Sonic and Tails explore Eggman's interstellar amusement park and find out that Eggman is using ghost-like creatures called Wisps to harness their power to take over the world. The writing I'm not a fan of, plus the game completely changed the way the series is looked on to this day, so I'm gonna have to give it a C tier. Next on this list is Sonic Generations. I think this game's story is better than Sonic Colors' story. It's not as childish, but at the same time, it still has a lot of that meta-era influence. Sonic's friends throw a birthday party for Sonic, but the party gets crashed by a creature called the Time Eater, which is a being that Eggman found at the end of Sonic Colors, and he plans to use it to erase all of his past mistakes. Sonic teams up with his past self, Classic Sonic, to stop Eggman. The plot itself I thought could have been done better, but I guess it had an excuse since it was just an anniversary game. But still, since this is a Sonic story tier list, I'm gonna have to give it another C tier, sadly. Sonic Lost World has arguably one of the worst Sonic stories on this list, and I would agree, the story is probably the worst thing about this game. The game basically follows Sonic and Tails as they find a new world, in which they battle 6 villains known as the Deadly Six, from using one of Eggman's machines to drain the energy of the world. Now, I actually understand the people that like this game. I think gameplay-wise, there is a lot to enjoy, but for the story itself, I'm gonna have to give it the bottom C tier. Okay, hear me out. I actually kind of like Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric's story. Maybe I'm too much of an optimist. Okay, listen, gameplay aside, the story itself was decent, okay? The world building was pretty cool. Lyric wasn't a bad villain, but yeah, I wouldn't say it has a great story, but I wouldn't say the story is garbage either, which is why I'm giving it a B tier.
At this point in the video, I'd like to welcome another guest, William BK. He's here to talk about the story of Sonic Runners, because this game I have also never played. So, without further ado, take it away, William BK.
Sonic Runners has pretty addictive gameplay, but the stories of Sonic Runners are incredibly basic. They largely boil down to, oh no, Eggman kidnapped the random helpless creature, or this poor random helpless creature is lost and can't find its way home. It's not necessarily bad, just incredibly basic. Everyone is characterized as their meta-era selves. Sonic is desperately trying to be funny. Tails is just a kind, smart guy. Knuckles is easily provoked. Eggman is written like a generic cartoon villain to a pretty painful degree. He gets found by Team Sonic, monologues a little, "You won't stop me this time," you get the gist. Fights, loses, then runs away swearing to return. It does its job being the story mode in an endless running Sonic mobile game, but that doesn't excuse it from being repetitive, lazy, and a whole lot of nothing. And for that, I say this goes in the D tier. Thanks again for having me, Levi. Back to you.
Sonic Mania doesn't have much of a story, but I still like the plot of the game. Sonic and Tails investigate a very powerful signal coming from Angel Island, so they head there, only to find Eggman's robotic henchman finding a very powerful gem called the Phantom Ruby. And so basically the story is Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles go to stop Eggman from using this new gem's power. It's pretty basic, but it also does its job pretty well. I'll give it a B tier. Now you're probably going to say I'm too nice for this, but Sonic Forces I actually think has a pretty good story. Hear me out, the writing I think was lame for the most part, but the story itself I think is pretty good, with Eggman actually managing to take over the world, and the whole thing with the resistance, I honestly like it. Now, do I think it could have been better? Absolutely. I think that can be said for basically everything in this game, but for what it is, I personally am giving Force's story a B tier. Next is Sonic Frontiers, and I can't help but love this story a ton. After all, it brought back the serious tone that Sonic stories had been missing for years prior, with Sonic having a deeper, more serious tone voice, and the story itself being a lot deeper than it has been before. Sonic, Tails, and Amy head to the Starfall Islands and hearing that the Chaos Emeralds were drawn to them. Out of nowhere, the gang all gets sucked into a digital world known as cyberspace, and all the characters except Sonic spend the game stuck halfway in between worlds in a glitchy-like state. Knuckles also is in this unfortunate state as he got trapped in cyberspace after investigating ruins on his island. So the adventure sees Sonic freeing his friends and also finding out more about the past and the people that used to inhabit the islands. Tails and Knuckles are especially well written in this game, and I think Sage as a character is really cool as well. And I would definitely like to see her return in another Sonic game down the road. Overall, Frontier's story deserves an SS tier in my opinion. It was a spectacular return for the series writing-wise. The next story on this list is from the April Fool's game, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. I've said it before, but this game is basically an IDW comic made into a game, and I think it's really cool. I honestly hope they make more of them someday. The characters are all characterized great, the story, writing, and plot are also great, and I think it deserves the A tier. Best April Fool's joke ever. Sonic Superstars I wouldn't really say has much of a story in terms of its writing and plot, so I'm not really sure what to say about this one. I guess it does its job, so into the B tier it goes. Sonic Dream Team is next. I've played a bit of the game, and I thought the story was pretty good. Anyway, for the plot itself, I really liked it. Eggman finds an artifact which basically allows dreams to come true. So Sonic and gang head to Eggman's base to investigate, only for the device to get triggered and send the gang all to sleep. From here, Sonic and the others find out what's going on and explore this strange new reality. That's pretty much all I know. I would say it's cool and would personally give it an A tier. And finally, we have Shadow Generations. Similar to Frontiers, this game gave us a more serious toned story, and I am all in favor of it. Shadow's past once again comes back to haunt him as he spends this game traveling through past levels, battling old enemies, and worst of all, meeting Maria and Gerald again, only to have them fade away at the end of the game. It's a really sad ending, but it makes it so good, which is why I'm giving Shadow Generations story an SS tier. And that is every single Sonic story ranked on a tier list. So what did you guys think of it? Was I cooking with my takes, or was I just dead wrong? Like I said before, if you want to see more, please hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get notified anytime I make a new video. And with that, I will see you guys next time.